My name is Jamie Guile. I'm 32 years old, and I learned on Christmas morning that cruelty doesn't always come wrapped in anger. Sometimes it comes wrapped in red paper, with a bow slightly crushed, handed to a toddler who trusts everyone in the room. They've never liked me. That part wasn't new. What I didn't expect, what I couldn't prepare for, was how far they were willing to go to prove it, how low they'd sink, how comfortable they'd be humiliating my 3-year-old daughter, Alina, just to remind me where I stood in the family hierarchy. Christmas morning started with snow, but not the kind you see in movies. It was that gray, slushy kind that clung to your boots and made the roads miserable. Still, Alina twirled in her sparkly red dress, white tights stretched tight over chubby knees, little boots she'd insisted on wearing because they clicked like princess shoes. She'd been talking about Grandma's Christmas tree for weeks. I even let her carry the ornament she'd made in preschool, popsicle sticks glued crookedly into the shape of a star. She held it like it was glass. I should have known better. When we pulled up to my parents' house around 9, my sister's SUV was already there, engine still warm. Inside, I could hear shouting and laughter, the loud, chaotic kind that always meant my sister's boys were being praised for something. Sure enough, they were already outside, racing brand new bikes through the backyard. Neon green, metallic blue. The tags were still on the handlebars. My mom and dad were filming them like it was some kind of commercial. One of the boys yelled, "Santa got me exactly what I asked for." Alina tugged my coat, eyes wide. "Mommy, I don't have a bike." I smiled and crouched to her level. "Santa brings presents inside too, remember?" She nodded, satisfied, trusting. Inside, the living room looked like something out of a magazine. The tree glowed, music hummed softly, gifts stacked high in expensive paper. Except none of them had my daughter's name. Not one. I'd sent my mom $500 in early December, told her I was overwhelmed with work travel, and asked her to grab a few things for Alina. A play kitchen, some books, a doll she could change outfits on. My mom said she knew exactly what to get. What she meant, apparently, was nothing. Eventually, after the boys had opened what felt like their 5th or 6th gift, my mom handed Alina a small box. It wasn't under the tree. She pulled it from the sideboard like it had been forgotten. The paper looked reused. Alina opened it slowly. Inside was a cheap plastic doll, no packaging, no accessories. One leg was missing. She stared at it, blinking, trying to understand. Then she looked up at me. That's when my mother said it, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Well, that's what happens when your mom disappoints us." My sister laughed. Her kids laughed too, not because they understood, but because cruelty always got rewarded in that house. Alina held the doll like she'd done something wrong. I knelt beside her and whispered something only she could hear. I didn't cry. She didn't either. What they didn't know, what none of them realized, was that I hadn't brought in their gifts yet. They were still in my trunk. 2 black bags, designer perfume, a $900 drone, leather tech backpack, custom monogram jackets. I carried them in quietly. The room went silent. I placed the bags by the tree and said calmly, "You won't be getting these." At first they laughed. Then they saw my face. I picked up my daughter and walked out. No one followed. And that was the moment everything changed. The first thing I noticed was how quiet my phone felt when I turned it face down. Not peaceful, not calm. Heavy, like something waiting to explode. For 2 days, I didn't answer anything. Not my sister's texts, not my mom's missed calls, not the vague voicemail my dad left asking why I'd stormed out, like I was a teenager who needed to cool off. I focused on Alina instead. Morning cartoons, pasta for dinner, bath time at the same hour, the same lullaby before bed. She never mentioned the doll again. She left it on a chair in her room and never touched it. That hurt more than tears would have. On the 3rd day, my sister cracked first. "Are you done throwing a tantrum?" I didn't respond. An hour later, "The boys are confused about why their aunt left Christmas." Still nothing. That evening, my mom finally sent a longer message. Paragraphs. Carefully arranged sentences meant to sound reasonable. She said I embarrassed her. She said I ruined Christmas. She said Alina was too young to understand and that I was projecting my own issues onto a child. Then she added the line she'd used my entire life. "After all we've done for you." I stared at that message until the screen dimmed. They really believed they were the victims. On the 4th day, my dad called. I let it ring. He left a voicemail saying everyone was upset and asking why I was being so cold. No apology, no mention of Alina, just confusion that the money had stopped flowing. That night, I opened my trunk. The gifts were still there, perfectly wrapped, untouched. I brought them inside and lined them up in my living room. Each one had a name on it. Each one represented another time I'd tried to buy peace. Another moment I'd confused generosity with love. I realized something standing there that made my stomach twist. I'd spent more time planning their happiness than my own. I unwrapped every gift. Then I boxed them back up and donated almost all of them. A women's shelter, a youth center, a family assistance program. I didn't take pictures, I didn't announce it, I just let it be done. When New Year's came, something shifted. I didn't send my parents their usual grocery money. I didn't pay my dad's car insurance. I didn't send my sister the $300 I'd quietly been giving her every week for years. I hadn't even realized how automatic it was until I stopped. That's when the panic began. My mom started calling twice a day. My dad sent short texts asking if everything was okay. My sister suddenly wanted to talk things through. No one mentioned the doll. No one mentioned Alina. Then I heard it from someone else. A friend of mine works near the pharmacy my mom uses. She texted me late one afternoon asking if everything was okay at home. She said she'd overheard my mom arguing with the cashier, asking if she could pick up half her prescription now and the rest later. My mom had never lived paycheck to paycheck. She'd just never lived without me either. I waited for guilt. It didn't come. About a week later, my sister showed up at my door without warning. She looked different. Tired, less confident, like someone who'd lost the upper hand and didn't know how to get it back. She asked if we could talk. I didn't invite her in. We stood there while Alina watched cartoons behind me. She said our parents were stressed, said they hadn't realized how much I helped, said I was taking things too far over one moment. I told her family doesn't humiliate toddlers either. She asked if I still had the gifts. I told her exactly where they went. For the first time, she didn't have anything clever to say. Before she left, she said something that stayed with me. She said I was changing, that I was becoming cruel. I closed the door and locked it. For the first time in my life, I wasn't chasing their approval, and they could feel it. The first real sign of trouble didn't come with yelling or accusations. It came quietly. An email from my dad. No greeting, no explanation. Just a forwarded notice with a big red banner across the top. Final utility bill. Disconnection scheduled. The amount was circled in bold. $13,066. That was something I used to pay without thinking. A few taps on my phone and their lights would have stayed on. Heat, hot water, comfort. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I locked my phone. I didn't reply. I didn't pay. The calls came anyway. My mom left a voicemail asking how long I planned to keep this up. My sister tried sounding casual, saying the boys missed me and things were tight after Christmas. She said she hoped we could get back to normal. Normal, where I paid and they pretended not to notice. That same week, my dad called twice in one day. The second voicemail was quieter, his voice low, like he didn't want my mom to hear. He mentioned the mortgage being a mess and said the bank had started asking questions. He didn't say it directly. He didn't have to. I had stopped sending the extra $600 a month I'd been covering on their house for the past 2 years. He'd assumed I never would. Then a friend sent me a photo. My mom was behind the counter at a gas station near their neighborhood, wearing a blue vest. Her hair was pulled back tightly, face drawn, hands scanning beer cans and folding lottery tickets. She looked smaller somehow, older. I stared at the picture longer than I expected, not because I felt bad. I didn't, not really. But for years, she'd said retail work was for women who had failed at life. She used to say that while I handed her envelopes of cash for trips, handbags, and salon appointments. Now she was standing under fluorescent lights because my money was gone. My silence wasn't just financial anymore. I didn't visit, I didn't call, I didn't reply. I was done until my sister showed up again. No warning, arms crossed on my porch like she was bracing for impact. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. She jumped right in. The boys were upset. Our parents were stressed. The electricity had been cut off for a full day the week before. Then she said it. "You're really going to let us fall apart just to prove a point?" I told her I wasn't proving anything. I told her I was removing myself from the game. That none of them had ever respected me, even while depending on me for everything. That they couldn't humiliate my daughter in front of a Christmas tree and still expect me to pay for the decorations next year. She called me selfish. Then she asked again if I still had any of the gifts. I told her where they went. The downtown shelter. The same one I used to volunteer at. Back when Mom said I was wasting my time. Her face fell. Then she said something that stuck with me. "You're starting to enjoy this, aren't you?" I didn't answer. But she wasn't wrong. Not in a cruel, gloating way. In the quiet relief of someone who'd spent years being treated like a failure while holding everyone else together. I was finally free from that, and I could breathe. After that, Things unraveled fast. My dad's car was repossessed. My mom's credit card was declined at a local market. My sister sent a long email blaming me for the stress in her marriage, saying her husband was exhausted trying to replace the money I used to send. She said their youngest had to quit a sport because they couldn't afford the equipment. She ended it with, "You're hurting innocent people because you can't let go of a grudge." I didn't respond. I knew exactly who was innocent. And it wasn't the adults who let my daughter hold a broken doll while their kids unwrapped bikes and laughed. What I felt wasn't guilt. It was clarity. The longer I stayed silent, the more they panicked. And the more they panicked, the more they revealed themselves. They weren't asking for forgiveness. They were asking for money. I wasn't their daughter. I was their ATM. And it was shut down. They could have accepted the silence. That's the part that still gets me. They could have stopped calling, stopped texting, stopped trying to corner me into conversations where they pretended this was all a misunderstanding. If they had just sat with the consequences, really sat with them, things might have de-escalated on their own. Instead, they wanted revenge. It started with a Facebook post. My mom wrote a long, emotional rant about being abandoned by her child, about working nights to afford groceries while her daughter lived comfortably and refused to help. People flooded the comments with sympathy. Some tagged me directly. Then my sister chimed in, saying I'd always taken from the family and was finally showing my true colors. That's when I realized it wasn't impulsive. It was coordinated. What crossed the line wasn't what they said about me. It was what they said about Alina. In the comments, my mom claimed they'd given her a sweet doll and that she hadn't said thank you. She wrote that Alina was learning disrespect from me. They humiliated my toddler again, this time in public. I broke my silence quietly. I messaged a few people privately, friends, relatives who'd known me long enough to ask questions instead of taking sides. I sent them a photo of the broken doll. I explained that the money meant for Alina's gift had gone toward my sister's kids instead. By morning, the post was gone. 2 days later, a package arrived. Inside was an expensive doll, one Alina had wanted all along. Perfect condition, both legs intact, no note, no apology. Alina smiled and said, "She has both her legs this time." That doll didn't fix anything. I didn't say thank you, I didn't respond. Weeks passed. Then my dad sent a message saying he finally understood why I'd walked away. Later, my mom sent a handwritten card. No excuses, no blame, just an apology. I still didn't reply. I needed to see if the change was real or just another transaction. A week later, I came home to find 2 boxes on my porch. One for me, one for Alina. I knew who they were from. Alina's box held a custom pink princess bedspread with her name stitched on it. Books, puzzles, a music box. Everything beautiful, everything expensive. Mine held a necklace, the exact one I'd admired years ago and never bought for myself. For the first time, they'd given me something personal. I still didn't respond. A few days later, my sister asked to meet. We chose a coffee shop. She admitted it. They'd used me. They never thought I'd stop helping. My mom cried when she saw the photo of Alina with the broken doll. She said they were talking about paying me back, selling things, making it right. Then she asked if I was coming for Easter. I told her yes, on one condition. They had to wire $500 for Alina, with an apology addressed to her. Not to me, to my daughter. She nodded. 3 days later, the money appeared, exactly $500. That night, a handwritten card arrived for Alina. I read it to her. She accepted it easily. 3 years old, and already more mature than most of my family. Easter came. They waited, they sent photos. I didn't go. Trust doesn't reset on a holiday. The silence changed after that. They stopped asking for money. They stopped asking for favors. They stopped asking for access to my life. And I realized something surprising. I didn't miss them. I missed the family I'd imagined they could be. After Easter, something in me shifted, but not in the way I expected. The chaos quieted. The frantic messages stopped. No more late-night voicemails, no more carefully worded texts testing the temperature of my boundaries. For the first time in as long as I could remember, my phone stayed still. And in that stillness, I noticed something uncomfortable. Part of me had been watching them unravel. Not with glee, not with cruelty, but with relief. That realization scared me, because I didn't want to become someone who needed their suffering to feel whole. I didn't want my healing to depend on their downfall. That wasn't freedom. That was just another kind of tether. So I stopped testing them. I stopped setting traps disguised as conditions. I stopped measuring their apologies, their gifts, their attempts at repair. I stepped back, not to punish them, but to protect myself. I built something quieter instead. Just me and Alina. Sunday pancakes with too much syrup. Fresh flowers on the porch because they made me happy. New traditions that didn't involve tiptoeing around anyone's ego. No strings, no shame. They still call sometimes. I say, not yet. And for the first time, that answer feels complete. I don't owe them money. I don't owe them time. I don't owe them access to my child. They know better now. And the peace I have, the kind that doesn't require permission or approval or payment, that peace is mine.